Hello and welcome back to the smoke room. We will be continuing where we left off, which is, if you recall, after we met up with Nick and Yao, and we're discussing what happened during the day, which is, if you recall, Ben tried to hurt Sam by, hitting him in the forearm. Um, what's his name? The Ram, Hendricks, went through with the whole thing of, giving Sam new tools, but it seems to be showing the wrong type of message to, the people working in the mines, that he's like being a favorite or something. And Beckett, which is one of Flynn's ancestors, sort of told Sam that he might want to keep this under wraps for now, because it's going to single him out as a target. But yeah, I guess we will continue from here, and, let's begin. While Nick prepares a dinner of canned beans and cured meat, I see Yao carefully writing something on a piece of paper with an ink brush, letting it hang to dry. We can't talk much about anything as the cabin is noisy and crowded at this time of the day. Workers constantly walk in and out of the door for supplies or daily hygiene. Others go to fish for their dinner or hover around the stove, chatting and eating while cooking their meals. Nick is muttering quietly about finding me a lunch pail when Yao finally folds his letter and places it in an unsealed envelope. Should I hide this while I'm traveling? Yao shrugs. Most in this town would not be able to read it, but hiding it would not hurt. I take the note out of the envelope. Oh. They're all Huxian symbols, which I'm assuming is Chinese. If anybody happens to understand what I hopefully assume is Chinese, would you mind telling me what this means in the comments? Yeah, I can't read this either. I put the letter back in the envelope, pocket it, and make my way back into town. The tents that Chang lives in are a little too close to the hip and William's office for comfort. So I take a longer path to get to the back of the area. Sometimes I think I see a patch of 20 fur or golden eyes, but it always turns out to be something else. When I get to the tent, I take a deep breath and wander inside. The rabbit who yelled at me the first time isn't here, but the man I'm looking for is. A stack of papers are scattered on a coffee table in front of the sofa he sits on, and he notices me immediately. So, it's you again. I wasn't expecting anybody tonight. Well, I wasn't planning to be here myself until last minute. Is that so? Did you change your mind about something? I'm not here to buy anything. Pity. He looks down and stacks some of the papers he's holding. There's work for me to do. I'm here because I need some help. I don't deal out favors for free. Yao sent me. Of course he sent you. There's no other reason you would be here if you aren't interested in buying. Unless you're looking to buy something else entirely. Here. I take the letter out of my pocket and shove it into his paw. He gives me a look, plucks it from me, then opens the envelope and unfolds the paper. As his eyes list across the symbols, his expression moves from perplexed to angry, then to thoughtful. Then he stares at me intensely. So, they put you there. On the 3rd floor? Under Moore. He says the name like it's dripping with poison. Then he folded his good paw over the damaged one. I think we can help one another after all. But I will ask a favor of you before I do. He looked to his left, then to his right. It's the paranoid sort of look that I've seen from plenty of my clients before they know what they want, but don't know how to ask for it. Is he getting at what I think he's getting at? This is a shared space, so it is not ideal for sharing secrets. You might be surprised by how quickly you can leak one anywhere, when the mood is right. My mouth curls into a grin. He has a very serious face, but I can't deny, it is handsome. And his fur looks very soft. What? Well, you mentioned wanting a favor. He digs one of his digits into his forehead and sighs. I am not asking for your body. Oh. Chang leans in close to me and lowers his voice. I want you to relay a message instead. The public library next to the city hall closes every night at 5 p.m. But it doesn't close. Not really. There is a man who buys and sells information there to anybody who can find him, and anybody he considers worth his time. He takes a long drag on his pipe, and I turn my head the other way, trying not to inhale the smoke like last time. You will tell him this to make yourself worth his time. Say, your brother can never admit that he was wrong, but he still misses you and cares about you. And that will get him to help me? It's something he's wanted to hear for a long time, and you are a stranger. But he may ask for money as well. I hope not. Before shirking my hip appointments and just starting at the mines for pittance, I'm pretty broke. But if this means we get that gold, well, maybe it's worth spending what I have, if I have to. If that's a phrase that will help me out, what's a phrase that will help you? That's the beauty of it. They're one and the same. Language can be efficient, can't it, Mr. Ayers? Something about the way he phrases that unnerves me a bit. I suppose. Chan breathes into his pipe again, then looks away. I wonder if this outcome will satisfy me. Satisfy you how? It's like I told you before. It's just to take some of the pain away. I ain't so sure pain can go away. At least, not all of it. His eyelids narrow when he looks at me. You can accept that for yourself if you like. He looks away again. But please tell Yao that I got the message. Okay, I will. I take the hint that it's time for me to go. Outside, I mull over what the Sable told me, trying to decide if I should go to the library or if I should just go back to the bunks and call this a wash. On the one hand, there's probably a lot of useful things that I could learn from this fella. On the other hand, Chang seems like he's planning something, and I can't for the life of me figure out what it is. I know that Yao trusts Chang to get results. But do I even trust Yao, really? Each new link in this chain of interactions seems more and more dubious. But using Chang's phrase might be the only option I have if I keep walking this path. So it's decided then. I'm going to the library. Town Hall at night looks a lot less welcoming. The apple tree, which is the only thing with leaves within a great many paces, rattles them when the wind blows through it. The front of the library certainly looks like it's closed. But then again, so does the back. I try to open the front door too, and it's locked. But when I look again at the back door, I see a little candle lit on a plate. When I go towards it, I turn a corner and see a door that looks like it's locked very tight with a padlock. But when I tug on it, it opens without any trouble at all. I've never been in the town library before. Mostly because I heard it was full of a lot of reference material that ain't much relevant to me. Also because I don't have a whole lot of time to dedicate to reading thick books full of words that I'd have to constantly keep looking up. I move past an entire section on growing summer crops to another on whatever optometry is. And then I see a man sitting by a stack of newspapers who stands up when he sees me. I am loath to turn anybody away for their interest in reading, but I'm afraid that the library is closed. The man has a reedy sing-song voice and a very expressive smile, but if he had a slightly different tone of voice, he'd sound just like... Beckett? Porter, actually. He said that somewhat stiffly. Now, I know that Echo's not exactly the size of the Windy City yet, but I find it very queer indeed that somebody would know my brother's name and invoke it in my presence. Sorry? I guess it's just that you look the same and sort of sound the same. And we haven't been on friendly terms in over 5 years. It would be in your best interest to speak quickly and cleverly, or I'll be forced to turn you out and summon the sheriff. That gets my heart pumping. I better think of something quick. I need some information. He puts on a sing-song tone. That generally is why people come to the library. Is this really the right guy? I'm walking towards the phone. Wait. He picks the phone off the receiver and gives me a look. If he really wanted me gone, it's not likely that he would have paused. It was like he was giving me one last chance. Your brother Beckett is sorry. He misses you, and he knows that he can never apologize. Those words just spilled messily out of my mouth. I don't know if I got them all right or said them in the way that Chang wanted me to, but I'm desperate at this point. The lizard adjusts his jaw, stops mouthing with a jolt, and then gives me a curious look before hanging the phone up and stalking back to his table. Well, that's certainly one hell of an introduction. Very well. Let's do business then, Mr. Ayers. You know my name? There's only one albino cougar I know of in this town. Yes, I know your name. If that surprises you, then you probably shouldn't be here in the first place. I don't mean any offense. I've been patient with you, Mr. Ayers, because you came here bearing a gift to me, and whether you arrived by your own connections or guile, I do not know. But I do bet that I could take a stab in the dark. But also, because you've told me something for free, that means it is no longer your chip which to barter. So whatever you ask for it, it will be paid for in cash or information. Let's just start with how much you've got. 40 cents. I have little interest in change, Mr. Ayers. Don't talk that way about my grocery money. You're going to have to pay me with what you know. I can tell you about myself. You're a prostitute. You service men. You work at the Segura's hip. Wow. The Gila fake yawns. If you're selling something about yourself, then it needs to be much better than that. How do you even know that? The same way that I know most things of the things that I know. Trades. It's certainly not because of my diploma. He flicks his tongue in that way that reptiles often do when they think they've told a good joke. Plenty of people have talked about their time with you, but I doubt that you could afford to know them all. But there's been a whole lot of interest in you as of late. And what exactly are they saying? Is that an answer you would like to buy? I'm curious now, in an uneasy way. But that's not what I came here to ask. Can I ask you my question first, and you can tell me how much it costs? Absolutely. He leans closer to me and takes out a pencil and a notepad from his pocket. Well, I need to be careful about what I say right now. A couple of friends. A couple is two, yes. Fuck. I sometimes use it to mean more than two. You sound uncertain about that. He smiles brightly at me. So my friends and I are trying to work together at all times when we're working under Beckett Moore. We don't want to be separated, but we don't want Beckett to know that we are all associated. How can I pull that off? Porter lets out a peal of laughter. Oh really? Is that all? Yeah, it's important. That's so simple that it seems almost mean to charge. Then don't. Oh, but I must. I'll tell you something that you, rather, already ought to know. And I'll tell you a clean solution that can be what I'm really charging you for. So if you want your answer, tell me. Give me the name of one of your companions. Who should I name? Because I don't know who or why he wants this name, I'm not gonna pick any of my actual friends, well, Sam's acquaintances and boyfriend. I'm gonna pick Ben. He's someone to keep close, isn't he? That will be sufficient. So, you'll help me now? I will give you what you paid for, yes. Now, how should I put this? I suppose there's no padding it. James Hendricks III is a sodomite who lusts after you considerably. The mine owner? Well, one of them, yes. He's tried to make time for an appointment at the Seguro's hip on numerous occasions, but a wrench often gets thrown into his plans. Well, that's flattering, I guess. So that's why he sent me all that equipment? I suppose that makes sense. But I barely talked to him. He's loaded, though. If you wrap James around your finger, which frankly would not be hard to do, you could easily get him to give my brother that order to keep your associates from separating. But that would still bring attention to our association. I've thought of that too. Throw some men into the request who are not associated with you whatsoever. That way there can't be any relation traced between all of you. That's intimidating. Incredible. It really isn't. But it will work. If you do what you have to do to make it work, of course. He sounds a little off-put by this. Funny, considering it was his idea, not mine. He really has no excuse. I think that's all I need. Thank you for your help, Order. Are you sure there's nothing else you want to know? Nothing I could afford, probably. Now, I'm not sure about that. I'm willing to bet that you have more secrets you could sell. I'd bet my life on that. Well, don't get fussy at me if you die. Then until next time, Mr. Ayers. Until next time. If there is a next time. When I get outside, it feels a lot later than it should feel. I should head back to the bunks. It's not a good idea to be out this late, all by myself. But it seems like everything I learned tonight was worth it. Unless I run into the sheriff. If William sees me, I'll be ruined. But thankfully, I get back to the bunks without running into anybody or being followed. The lights are out when I get in. I climb into my bunk as quietly as I can without disturbing my cabin mates. They can hear about what I learn tomorrow. I can hear Nick snoring, but I wonder if Yao is still awake. You awake, Yao? I hear the tiger exhale sharply, then pant, as if he had been woken up from a bad dream. It's very late. I know. Sorry I woke you up. Of course. I just wanted to say that everything went extremely well. I thought it might. Chang is most effective at these types of problems. I probably could have done this without his help, if I weren't so thick. Ended up owing him a favor and everything. That disappoints me. I hope my letter would be sufficient enough without extra conditions. What kind of favor? Nothing too meddlesome at all, I just passed on a message. I was desperate enough to sell him my body, but he wasn't interested. I laughed to let him know that I'm joking, but he doesn't seem to laugh back. Are you in the business of such services? That wipes a smile off my face. I figured that I had enough dirt on this man that he wouldn't use this knowledge against me if he did know. Could be. I suspected. I don't like the sound of that. Why's that? It's the way he looks at you. He points below the bunk. There is a lover's closeness, but there is also a distance. He guards you like fragile glass, yet looks away when others stare at you, like he knows that you wish to be stared at. Well, maybe I do. I wet my lips and swallow my spit. You must get stares too. Unfortunate when you wish not to be seen. Why so? I think I'd be even more popular at the brothel if I had that striking fur that you do. You might put me out of business if you did what I did. He smiles at that. White fur and red ice can be striking too. Well, I wasn't really expecting him to flirt back. And I wasn't sleeping. I swallow again. Oh? I have my needs too. We're still as quiet as can be. There's familiar sounds coming from other bunks. I understand now what Nick meant when he said that you got used to it. I should have known that Yao would be doing this at night too. Between the long hours, the maintenance of chores, and the general exhaustion of work, there's not a lot of time or privacy to handle our natural urges in a life like this. He takes his paw out from under his sheet, sighs, and lets it flop out on the sheets. I didn't mean to embarrass you. It's not as embarrassing anonymously among strangers. But I know your face now. Mind if I join you? His ears splay back. It might be a little less awkward than finishing alone. Who says I can finish now? The part of you that knows that it has to come out some way or another. You seem like the type who doesn't sleep well in ruined clothes. Or sheets. His chest heaves as he looks back at me. What you're suggesting is dangerous. Is that why you smell so interested? His ears fold back. The wet sounds of squeezing and stroking don't relent. There's a moan, and some of the beds creak. It's not just one of them. Yao looks at the bunks with a critical stare. But his eyes soften when he looks back at me. Somehow, I think that our other bunkmates don't have much room for criticism if they do notice you making some sounds. So, should I stalk on over, or should I shut my eyes and fall asleep to the night music? I can't pay you anything. That's not a no if I ever heard one. I smile bigger, and Yao's ears splay back further. Is the gold really real? Of course it is. Then you're already paying me, aren't you? It's a partnership. Call it whatever you want. The beds creak a little as I crawl on all fours across the gap in the beds and slide next to the tiger. I'm just in the mood. I can really tell that this is his bed now that I'm on it. He smells a bit similar to me when he's aroused, which I probably shouldn't find surprising. It can take you off guard when a scent is close enough to be nostalgic, but different enough to let you know that it's new. The both of us are pretty big to take up his little bunk together, but if they're built to hold people as big as Nick and Dimitri, we shouldn't have too much to worry about. It just puts us very close. Do you usually do that under the sheets? Only when I think somebody could be looking. I don't have to look if you don't want to. Thank you. I look away and hear the sheets barely flutter as he pulls them off. Now I can really smell him. The side of his thigh presses up to mine, and he feels warm. He turns away and whispers even more quietly. You don't have to wait. Wait for what? I look for just a second, not really thinking about it. His paw is dripping wet, and his shaft is long and thick, and his tip is messy. But I look away again. He might even be more self-conscious than Nick about this sort of thing. I don't even know if he prefers men or women. But I think that he's into this at least. Whatever this is. Attending your needs. Do you really think that I need to? I can feel myself getting bigger in my own pants, feeling a little mischievous. I can hear the sheets rustle near his head. He's checking my groin. But it doesn't take him long to look away again. Did you know that most men don't touch themselves in the same way? No. I just think it's interesting how everybody lets it out a little bit differently. And develops habits. I free myself from the undergarments restraining me, then spit into my paw as quietly as I can. How do you like to do it? He lets out a one-note hum. I just pump. And sometimes squeeze. It's all about slight, slippery corkscrews for me. I demonstrate just in case he's watching again. You look good at that. He is. I'd hope so. Been doing it most of my life. When my paw gets to the base of my shaft, I thrust suddenly and aggressively. Just to show off. He stifles a groan. You ever touch one before? I look at him and watch him. He's pumping now, stiffly. Someone else's? No. I'd whistle if I weren't trying to be quiet. Really? That's surprising. And why is that? You just look a little more experienced to me. I am. I do not usually do the touching. I watch him pump, sounding messier and messier with each stroke. Looks like you understand the idea, though. I stroke mine next to his. I wonder if you want to. It's louder than our whispers, but that's not something either of us can help. You are suggesting a trade, then? Just pause. I smile bigger. Unless you're not afraid to swallow. It's a lot nicer than you think. I chuckle to myself. Now I'm just being a prick. But he's still leaking like a faucet. He puts his arm behind his back and buries his face in his muscles. You already made me curious about how you touch. Why change the subject? I don't have a whole lot of time to learn about what somebody wants. So I test things. That's all. He looks away. Help me touch, then? He hooked his arm under mine, and then let his wrist rest on my belly. Like I said, I bring his wrist to his groin, open up his big paw, interlock his digits with mine, and make him touch the shaft. You already know how. I make him pump me. It's not hard at all because his hand and my prick are already slick. Then I cross my free arm over his. And I grabbed him. You really are a grower. When I like it. So you like it? I pump us with both of our hands. But I don't have to pump both of us for long. He starts pumping me on his own, and my wrist is just along for the ride now. I show him what it feels like when I touch myself, and he shows me in kind. He grunts in surprise when my grip rotates around the base of his shaft. He grips me tight, much tighter than any rear I've ever been in. He's breathing into his own arm now, as his panting gets shorter and shorter and I feel him start to pulse. His teeth are gritted, and he's jabbing into my palm. I whisper even lower. Yeah? He groans, and now his hips are thrusting. Yeah. I see his balls retract and the skin beneath his taint start to spasm. There it is. I can tell how bad he wants to yell out and roar, but he's restraining himself like he knows he's a man in a cage. But the noise of the splattering speaks for itself. The smell of it is too close to my own, which pushes me over the edge, and our white ropes cross one another as we make a mess of each other's fur. Yao looks at his hand, chest heaving. He looks surprised at himself, but satisfied. I haven't finished like that for years. That felt right, in a way I hadn't before. What did you do? It's simple. I've had to lurk around, watching you and Nick do what you're good at all day, feeling useless. And you just got to see what I'm good at. It's astonishing. Try not to be too surprised, please. Now I know why Nick disappeared to see you so often. You might have the wrong idea. You do not service him? Well, I do. But he doesn't need it every time. Sometimes he just wants to get away and be held. He pays you to hold him? Well, yeah. He could pay me to hold him instead. I need new shoes. Unfair. Well, it didn't start that way. And I've done a lot more than just use a hand. Well, I don't need to know everything. You asked. Fair. I rest the back of my head on his arm, which is just as big as any pillow, but a lot firmer. This is nice. He pets me, and I start to purr, which isn't ideal if we want to keep quiet. If he purrs too, it could quickly turn into a problem. But my eyelids start to droop. Then he gently nudges me. You probably want to fall asleep on your own bed. Considering our nudity. Oh. That is a good point. I am told I am good at making points. Very funny. But true. Still, I can't believe this is the first time he's given anybody else a hand job. I wonder what else I can get him interested in. Oh, Sam, you're just gonna corrupt the poor tiger. The poor, handsome tiger. It's a lot easier to wake up today than it was yesterday, so this time I can eat breakfast with Nick and Yao. I can't tell Nick much of what happened with so many of the morning crowd coming and going. So I try to whisper the plan into Nick's ears instead. What? His shout is so loud that some of the housemates stop their conversation and look in our direction. Yao just eats his oatmeal, pretending not to see either of us. We wait for people to get bored with looking at us, and when they continue their conversations, we lower our voice. A terrible idea. Disgusting, even. But it will work. More reason for me to protest. You know, I do stuff like this all the time. Yao covers his ears with his hat, as if pretending not to hear. That man is not the person you should toy with. That's my compromise, Nick. It's either this or I go the rest of the week alone. This is why you and Adler got along so well. Crass and stubborn. The tiger lets out a one-note laugh. Do you have something to add, Yao? You're stubborn too. I am not stubborn. I am correct. So, what do you want me to do? Stay in the bunks. Not an option, so I'm proceeding with the plan. Okay. Maybe you will be fine on your own. Perhaps he can make up his own mind after the morning goes. Perfectly put. Thank you, Yao, for helping me make up my own mind. The tiger looks perplexed, like he's about to say something, then doesn't. We agree that staggering our walk into the mines is still a good idea, so we let Yao go first. He pats us both on the shoulders with a hearty grasp before disappearing out the front door. Before we go, I have a gift for you. What sort of gift? He crouches below the counter and pulls out something for me. It's a big lunch pail. The gift of life. He pushes the handle into my paw, and I can feel the considerable weight of its contents. I can see 3 mallard ducks painted on the side. One's white, one's black and white, and one is orange and striped. Did you make this yourself? The badger frowned. Does it look that cheap? No, not at all. Then yes, I did. The ducks are the giveaway. I don't see how, really. Regardless, thank you. There is nothing to thank me for. I will not see you starve. Well, I was going to pick up one last night anyway. Although it slipped my mind, admittedly. But, thank you. I will see you soon. Nick picked up his pail and his equipment and disappeared into the hall of the cabin. I hear the door gently clatter as he leaves. 5 minutes later, I clean my bowl in the sink, leave it in the dish rack to dry, and gather my things. Then I start my trek all the way back to the mouth of the CSCG. It's so hot today that I'm surprised I'm looking forward to working under the shade, as much as this place makes my skin crawl. I feel that breathing sensation that I know all too well now that I'm at the entrance again. But I know where I'm going now, so thankfully I don't waste too much time. The 3rd floor is as busy as ever. It's good to hear the compressor rumbling. I'm thankful because this should mean Beckett is in a good mood. Which turns out to be true, as he's the first man I run into today. Morning, Ayers. And welcome back. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Yellow team's in the east again. It's going to be more of the same for some time. I can't complain about familiarity. That's good, because it applies to more than just a taste down here. You can't help but get to know everybody real well when you're this close and cramped. The men who stay, anyway. I'd imagine that might be the case. Though it might be nice to know the men on the other color teams too. Do you switch folks around often? I do from time to time when one team needs more assistance from the other, or we get a major new task and have to mix things up. But you don't have to worry about getting shuffled around. I'm pretty adaptable in all honesty. Mr. Moore grunts. Well, that's what most people say, but usually, before long, folks find what they're good at and stick to it. I mean, ideally I'd be good at multiple things. He smiles at that. Make sure to work hard, and maybe you will be. Now, go on. I won't keep you waiting. I smile, turn around, and feel my mouth curl down into a scowl. Well, there goes that plan. It might be a little sour later in the day if I can successfully get James to reassign me, and the other men to always be together. I meet a few more of the men on the yellow team. I'm happy at first to see a few other Pumas, so I gravitate towards them. But it turns out that they can't even speak my language. So they ignore me, and look at the hue of the fur with sharper glares than I'm comfortable with. I see Nate and Ben too, but quickly put as much distance between us as possible. But when I see Felipe, Paul, and Dimitri, naturally I gravitate towards them. Big boy's back. You can't say that if you're all compared to me. Biggest boy's back. In truth, I'd say Dimitri is the biggest, eh? Smallest dimwit will never stop talking. Felipe clicked his tongue. Because I know you can't get enough of the sound of my voice, Paul. Glad to see you again, Mr. Ayers. You know, that's the second time that I've heard that this morning. Do I really look like somebody who wouldn't last? Well, don't take it personal, kid, but most men don't. Paul's right. Plenty of people quit their first day. Not everybody can handle the kind of work we do. There's a lot of injuries. But there's a lot more people who find that this work isn't for them, and they've searched for contract work above the surface. Nobody expects you to be confident so soon. Well, I don't like the feeling that I'm being treated like some walking corpse instead of a grown man. Try not to take it personally. Many won't make the effort to know you before a year because so many men come and go. In fact, we're lucky to have so many veteran miners on level 3. I'll try not to take offense so quickly next time. It would be best not to. As we take our time to expand the tunnel longer and longer, it turns out that the notion that there were considerably more silver veins hidden here was correct. We exposed enough of the shining to start driving picks into the wall and blasting on several ends and sides of the tunnel. Felipe always holds the pick for Paul, and Dimitri holds his pick for me. I'm surprised he feels comfortable enough to do that. But he just guides me on how to stand, with how much force I should swing, and where I should focus my gaze. Between all of us, we set off successful blast after successful blast, and it's starting to feel like it's second nature. But I still can't shake how much the explosions leave me rattled. Think he'll fork the tunnel? Probably, considering how much silver is in here. Might not be much of a tunnel left if we keep finding this many veins. When the others are distracted, the jackrabbit crouches, picks up a big chunk of silver, and then dumps it into his pocket. What are you doing? I'm just gonna double check this chunk of silver. At home. What I think he means is that he's stealing. I kinda wanna steal too. But I probably shouldn't. It's gonna mess up everything for the robbery that's going to matter. When the others come back from their water break, we get ready to strike at the rock again, but we're interrupted. We hear Ben sprinting down the tunnels before we see him. Howdy, fellas. He's panting a bit, out of breath. Hello there. Ben. The Wolverine's tone is caustic, but the dog ignores it. Whoa, 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 whoa. No need for hostilities. Can't agree. Now look. I'm really sorry about all the screwing up I've been doing as of late. I'm afraid I've been a bit of a jackass. Sure have. Enough of that, Paul. We all make dimes at our boss's dollar, so we have nothing to fight about amongst ourselves. Right, exactly. I always said that I thought we should be helping one another. And the way that I've behaved the last few days? Well, that ain't me. So, you're saying that you need something right now. Ben lets out a nervous laugh. Well, it's more Mr. Moore needs it. We've been so lucky with all of the ore that I'm afraid we're fresh out of dynamite. I'll pay you back fully for any that we use up front. Paul grumbles, but Dimitri just takes off his pack and tosses it to Ben. Use all you need, but Moore is the one who can pay me back. I have 6 sticks left. Ben smiled. I owe you one. And then he was off. You shouldn't have done that. See, even the new guy knows not to trust that kiss ass. Why do you think that, Mr. Ayers? I lower my voice. Just based on something that happened yesterday. I'm pretty sure he tried to hurt me in front of Mr. Moore. Really, man? Paul looked down the tunnel to see if anybody was coming. Dimitri just shook his head. I think you might believe that's what happened, Ayers, but that doesn't make a whole lot of sense based on what I know about Ben Keyes. Dimitri patted me on the shoulder. I think he's a good boy. He's not the brightest tool in the shed, but he's young. You're allowed to be a little stupid when you're young. No offense meant. He added that quickly, with a warm laugh. Full offense taken, sir. This ain't the same kind of thing that you think it is at all. Even if Ben did want to do harm, doing something like that in front of the foreman would have sunk his chance for a promotion. And I know he wants anything but that to happen. He tried to make it look like it was my fault. He wants seniority pretty bad. Seniority over us, you mean? Well, I don't know anything about any of that at all. I just know he acted mean and crazy. We hear Beckett curse in the distance as the compressor rumbles to a halt, but then we continue our conversation. You need to check the bag thoroughly when you get it back if you know what's good for you. We hear jogging again. Ben's back, breathing harder than usual. Compressor's out again, sorry. We don't need this after all. He shoves the bag back into Dimitri's paws and picks up his run again, following the cord on the ground. All of us are looking at the bag. Aren't you all being a bit paranoid? Nope. We're not. Dimitri crouches and empties the contents of his bag on the tracks. Everything's accounted for. Nothing sharp to slice my hand on, no venomous beasties, no strange residue. He smiles up at everybody. Just a bunch of very creative friends. Now, can we make our peace with Ben and get back to work? I don't care if the bag is fine. I don't trust Ben. I can tell that Paul still doesn't either. Felipe seems indifferent, considering it looks like he's stealing something else. I can't believe I'm the one following the law for a change. But we carry on with our work regardless. Felipe and Paul perform the next successful blast. Once we haul all the rocks out of the way and load them into the carts, then unload them into the cages, it's mine and Dimitri's turn to do the next blast. I'm thankful that he lets me drive the steel, and I'm as careful as possible to perfect my strike routine, swinging when Dimitri tells me to. Beautiful. Would you like to light the next fuse? I wish I had one of those hats with lamps like Nick does. Just lighting a fuse with a candle's flame doesn't look nearly as stylish. Why not? There's a good lad. He hands me a small stick and I look for the hole. The fuses are slow enough to light them before we put the stick in, and sometimes the angles make it impossible to light it that way. So I bring it up to the tip of the candle. I expect to hear the low, steady hiss, but what I see is a loud, white fizz of a sparkler. I bring it to the rock, feeling confused. But Dimitri slaps it out of my hand. Run! I feel him push me as hard as he can and go flying as I hear the blast. I can see a part of the ceiling collapse and people start to scream. The dust settles and the rocks don't cause a cave-in, thankfully, but I can still hear screaming. It's Dimitri. Me, Paul, and Felipe run up to him, and I feel a knot in my stomach when I can smell the blood. Paul looks so mad that he's seeing red. I'll kill him! I'll kill that yellow-bellied bastard! What the hell's going on? Beckett, Nate, and Ben were all running towards us. Felipe was on the floor, shoving the piece of boulder off Dimitri's leg, which made him roar out in pain. Keyes did this! Did what? You come near me again and you're dead, you son of a bitch! Somebody is gonna die if we don't splint and bandage him immediately. As far as I can tell, it was only Dimitri's foot that was hurt. But that was a lot of blood. I've survived too much to do any dying today, thank you. The bear's voice is still confident, but he sounds as shaky as he could ever be. Felipe takes off his handkerchief to bind the wounds. Carajo. I don't need to be any doctor to tell you that you won't be on this foot for months. Dimitri just laughs, then closes his eyes, looking close to losing consciousness. We need to get him to town. Don't move him yet. He might have other injuries. I want somebody calm to tell me what happened. The fuse in Dimitri's dynamite burnt out in seconds. Went up like a fucking firecracker is what it did. Right after Dimitri handed this piece of shit his bag. What are you insinuating? I think it's pretty clear that he thinks you tampered with Dimitri's dynamite. Wow. Now, I know y'all have some sort of grudge against me, but that's crazy talk. No, it isn't. Those explosives were fine before you took the bag and left our sight. You fixed them with something. Ben gave the Wolverine an incredulous look. Sounds like something you wouldn't say without proof. The proof's in the goddamn bag. Wait a minute. Is there proof in the bag? I saw Ben stare back at us with blank eyes. It's like there's nothing there. No guilt, no anger from receiving a false accusation. Just nothing. Immeasurable, dark, and deep. Then this should be pretty easy. He walked up to Paul and took the bag from his hand, retrieving a dynamite stick, then plucking the wick out of it. He held it to the flame and waited. It gave off a slow, steady burn. Paul looked like he didn't know what to say. That one's fine. Beckett tested every single wick in the back. None of them lit up like the first one. So there goes your theory, Frankson. But I know what I saw. Could he, or, well, anybody just tamper with one? It's certainly possible. Beckett stood up and rubbed his hands together. It's what I'd probably do if I wanted to hurt somebody without them noticing, and I was being careful. More men rushed into the hall. One of them must have been a medic because he said that the bear was fine to move. Felipe and one of the other pumas lifted the bear up and helped him hop with one foot out the hallway. They tell us that they're going back into town. It takes a whole lot of effort not to want to leave with them so that nothing else happens to Felipe or Dimitri on the way. Sir, you're not supporting what these men are suggesting, are you? Beckett blew out air from his lips and shook his head, looking at nobody in particular. Dimitri went 10 years without getting hurt. Dimitri doesn't fuck up. That being said, there's nothing to support what Frankson is accusing you of either. So, I do think his injury is somebody else's fault. He's looking at me, then to Paul, then to Ben. Doesn't mean that I know who, and I'm no Sherlock fucking Holmes. But I know some people who could look into this, and we're gonna do so tonight. Beckett stands and shakes his head again. Until then, everybody back to your posts. Then he leaves us. So does Ben and Nate and the other bystanders. And then I work with Paul in shared grief and in silence. He looks too angry to focus, and all I can think about now is how safe I used to feel when Dimitri was around. But he won't be from now on. That just means I can't ignore what I have to do anymore. I work until the lunch whistle blows. I don't bother to look for Nick or Yao in the mess hall. I go straight to the elevator and out the mines. Hendricks' office building sits above us on the quarry. When I step inside of it, there's a fresh scent that's starting to smell less and less natural and a lot more like chemicals. The secretary looks at me like I brought her a dead bird. I smile, knowing I must look filthy here. It might be best to come back later. I'll wait. She smiled with her mouth, but cringed with the rest of her face. The sounds of voices come through the door. They were yelling. You handle your side of the company your way, and I'll handle mine my way. We could win each and every one of these men back if we show them that the CGCS isn't just a business, it's a way of life. No. You're stupid, you're spoiled, and you're going to listen to what I have to say. Because I'm going to tell you what you have to do to a bunch of rabid dogs. You starve them until they learn not to shit at the table. Or they take the hint that they're not welcome, and they sniff around someone else's dumpster. If they try to bite you, or make the other animals sick, you'll put a bullet in their fucking heads. Oh, don't be such a dinosaur. The door slams open, and I see Briggs storm out the door, nostrils flaring. It feels like he doesn't even see me as he beelines towards the door and shouts behind him. Your daddy was better! He then shoves it open with both hands, nearly busting it, and it closes on its own. I'm spoiled, but you don't even bother to use the goddamn door handle without dislodging it from the frame. I hear James's voice from the other room, but it sounds like he isn't bothering to come out. Are you alright in there, sir? Oh, is that Samuel I hear? He opens the door, and I poke my head out. Come in, my boy. When I get inside, he closes the door. Hello, Mr. Hendricks. My, you're filthy. He takes his own handkerchief out from his pocket and starts wiping my hands and my face down. I can see the dirt coming off my fur stick to the salmon-colored fabric. But what a joy it is to see you after that drudgery. He rolls his eyes and looks at the door. Hard day, sir? Oh, you don't know the half of it. I bet none of your days are hard. Not really. But I hear you're taking on all of your tasks with a nod and a know-how that exemplifies true grit. Okay. I just wanted to thank you for the new tools. I put on my best smile, the kind of smile that makes a client think that I've had just the right amount of alcohol to feel star-crossed. Oh, poppycock with your thanks. It was the very least I could do. Not wrong. You could probably do it for all the workers if you wanted to. You love it down there in the dirt and the dust, don't you? Well, I just think that's great. This great nation is nothing without great men who give it their all and aren't afraid to get a little dirty. I don't think what I'm about to try is a little bit dirty. You're right, sir. Is there anything more that I could do to show my appreciation? Well, there's always a lot more that you can do, Samuel. Wait, is he making the first move before I can? How about we end this pointless dance and have you get on your knees? I'm suddenly a little dizzy. I know what he said, but I just didn't expect it so soon or like this. Come again, sir? He unhooks his belt and unzips his pants. You don't need to play coy. We both know what you are and where you come from. I'm not sure how to respond to that, but I also don't want to make him angry. Or worse, suspicious. Cheer up, Samuel. He walks behind me and locks the door, then turns around. I want to make this fun. He frowns. What? Do you not wish to do this? I did at first, but now something feels off. I knew that he wanted to sleep with me, but I never communicated that I wanted to have him as my client. It's almost like he doesn't know either. I do. I slide down to my knees like he asked. Good, good. He fishes himself out and presents it to me. I trust you know what to do with this. Of course I do. The first thing I notice is that he's a very clean man. I've smelled expensive perfume on him before, but today, he smells like nothing. He's almost the scent of blank paper. I know how to use my mouth, even with a lack of inspiration. It's apparently good enough for him. A few slow, long lips up his side of his soft shaft makes it go stiff. And the sight of him going ramrod straight is enough to ignite my spark of interest. I hold myself down, letting myself choke. And that's when I start to smell desire on his balls. This flash of instinct motivates me. I let the thick strand of drool connecting my mouth and his cock hang in the air before it breaks under his own weight and splatters to the floor. All I have to do is piston on and off him at this point. A sweet and simple suck. And it pays off too, because it gets very close, very fast. I can feel him throb now, and he grabs my head. You know, there's a lot of ways to know if somebody is loyal. He pumps into my mouth. Hard. It's a little hard to breathe through it, and I sputter. But my favorite way to know, he grunts between each thrust, is when you never feel teeth. He pets my head as he continues to come. I just smile and swallow, like I'm not being utterly fake. He looks down at me, smiling. This man might be a bit delusional. You know, I ought to keep you in here all day. I chuckle at that. It's not a happy one. Would you like to be? Oh, he isn't kidding. I put on the most serious voice I know. Well, sir, I already have an important job to do. Oh, I know. It almost sounds like he's pouting. And then he lowers his voice. But just between you and me, I'm on the hunt for a new secretary. I frown. Why's that? She's just a bit too dour. It makes coming in the morning ever so dreary. This place could use individuals with a bit more optimism. Suddenly, I feel very bad for the polecat outside. I think I'm meant to be where I am. He sighs. Then I understand. You really don't, but that's the goal. But there is a favor that I need to ask of you. Anything. There's a particular group of men that I work well with together, but sometimes we get split apart. Could you make it so that the foreman has to put us together every time? Oh. He's frowning. Briggs can be a bit of a cock when I intervene with the management of the foreman. Not to say that the ins and outs of the grunt work is my forte to begin with. He hems. But Beckett is flexible. He has never undermined my authority before. Very well, let's make it so. I smile again and prepare my list using James's own supplies. When I hand it over to him, he squints one eye and then scans with the other through his monocle. His gaze stops and lingers on some of the names for a second, but then it moves on down to another and he nods good-naturedly. That's an interesting mix, but you haven't disappointed me yet. We'll have this phone down immediately. Maybe not immediately, sir. Beckett might be eating. This is our lunch break. Hush now. If that curmudgeon has to talk to somebody during lunch for once, it might as well be me. Both of us flinch as we hear the high noon gunshot. Off you go then. We'll be in touch soon enough. He pats my cheek and returns to his desk, then picks up his phone. I don't want to feel guilty hearing Beckett's reaction at the end of that phone call. but I have to look out for myself. Thankfully, I'm not too late to find Nick and Yao by the time I get back to the mess hall. When Nick sees me, he looks extremely relieved. He moves in like he's about to give me a big hug, but then stops himself, as if he's reminded of where he is. We heard that somebody got hurt near you. When we did not see you here, we thought that perhaps... He exhales. Well, you are here now. It was Dimitri. Both of them look shaken. That is... one of the worst possible things that could have happened. In that case, this might make my decision to leave the area easier. Yao looks like he's thinking again. This may change some of my circumstances as well. We should act quickly then. We can rejoin in the showers after the last whistle blows. Actually... What, Sam? I have good news on that front. We won't get split up anymore. Yao perks up a little. Nick looks a little worse. So, you went through with that then? Yeah. His fists ball up on the handle of his lunch pail. Then, it is done? I think so. James said that he'd be in touch actually, but I don't think I need to worry about that right now. If we can be faster than just a week, it would be even better. Can it be done, Yao? He sounds like he's phrasing that more like a command than a question. But Yao shrugs. It depends on how much is truly there, how much we need, and how fast we can take it. Our hushed conversation comes to an end when we hear the clang of Morse triangle. All right, men. He sounds even more surly than usual. We had a couple unusual things happen in the last few hours that's thrown a wrench into things, so we're gonna have to move a few folks around again. He lists the names for the red team. Then I'm relieved to hear Nick, Yao, and my names in the yellow team. Paul and Felipe are on there too. But so are Nate and Ben. The workload we're given for the rest of the day isn't too extraordinary. But it's mostly picking through soft minerals and hauling away the excess dirt and rock. Beckett forbids any detonations done by anybody but himself. When the three of us are by ourselves, Yao takes the opportunity to speak again. When this shift is over, we can sign out, and then we can wash. He took out his map. I checked again to see if anybody was near us, but I didn't see anybody. But instead of returning to the bunks, we can disappear into the vertical passage. He doesn't have to say the passage where I killed Jack for me to know where he means. Is it possible that we could use another route to enter? Maybe the exit? I think we should use that one as little as possible. That is our quickest way out when we have what we're looking for. We don't want to risk discovery. The path we take will be past 3, left, past 2, left, right past 1, right, left, right, straight. Do you have a pen and paper? You need to memorize this. We have to be fast. Okay. But what if I forget? You don't want to be holding a piece of paper and reading it if you're lost. Or trying to avoid something. Something like an animal, you mean? Ain't that right, Yao? It's almost like he knows there's something down there that isn't an ordinary animal. But it's like he won't talk about it for God knows what reason. Do not worry. If you get confused, I will be much more useful to you than a piece of paper. And you won't be out of my sight. He leans in close, puts his hands on my shoulder, and gives me an intense look that almost looks a little hungry. It's an aggressive side to him that I usually get to see in private. It makes my cheeks a little warm, and the warm blood flows south. I scratch the back of my neck. Could you, say that sequence again, Yao? Of course. Pass 3, left. Pass 2, left. Right. Pass 1. Right. Left. Left. Right. Straight. I say the words out loud. The tiger corrects me several times. But eventually, I think I get it. I run the sequence in my head again, over and over again, as we work. Pass 3. Left. Pass 2. Left. Right. Pass 1. Right. Left. Left. Right. Straight. I lose track of time going it over and over again in my head. But we finally hear the end of the day whistle. All together? Together. Together. We go to the mess hall to put away our things and stop by the locker. What was my combination again? It was left 8. Got it. I put my pick in my hammer, but I noticed something on the ground. It looks like somebody's wallet. I don't have time to look at it now, but I'll take a peek at it later. I can carry your lunch pail in my pack, Sam. Just so you don't forget it. What makes you think I'd forget it? He crouches down and took my pail from the bottom of my locker. You look like you were about to close your door. Oh, I guess it did slip my mind. Thanks, Nick. Thank me by eating. It is not healthy to miss meals. I roll my eyes. Considering what I've been through lately, it's a miracle that I want to eat at all. The miracle is how you've stayed so big with that attitude. Weights and stretches mostly. I take care of myself plenty. Regardless, you will lose those muscles in time if you are not careful. You need protein, Sam. Heh. I get plenty of protein, Nick. Don't you worry. Please do not lose focus on our task. Alright. Regular meals will keep you focused too, Sam. I shoo him away with my claw, and he laughs. I really ought to be better at picking up on when he's annoying me on purpose. We sign our names out of Beckett's logbook and take the elevator up together. Seems like a long way up knowing we'll just go back down at another level again shortly. But this time with a rope in our hands. I'm grateful that it's time to hit the showers again. I feel a little awkward when I get to the showers with Nick and Yao next to me. It was easier to do this around strangers. But being nude around Nick just reminds me of all the times we spent together. And I feel a lot closer to Yao now. Funny how your perspective can change after you make a man spill out. Still, I close my eyes and try to ignore the splatters of soap and water over familiar fur and muscle, letting the sting of the cold water and the dingy conditions keep me from getting too excited. Nick and Yao. We dry off and dress ourselves, breaking away from the line of men ambling towards the mouth of the mine's entrance. And Yao takes us to that familiar direction that's still fresh in my memory. The quartz here still shines and refracts even closer tonight when there aren't too many sunbeams coming through the ceiling. Nick tests the rope. I get a bad feeling and expect it to be damaged, but Nick says it's fine. Yao goes first. I go second. The second time's a lot easier than the first, but I still hate the feeling of swinging in midair. Nick follows us down this time. As we go through the gaps in the rocks, I feel a little bit surprised that Nick can make himself fit. But he knows how to move his body in a way that lets him flatten as he wriggles through the rocks, which surprises and impresses me. Maybe that's something he's just used to doing. We're back now in the last place on the planet that I want to be. I remember the size and the stink of it. I hate everything about this place. Sam. He grabs my paw and unfurls it. It's strangely warm and wet. Was I really sweating that much? No. It's blood. My own claws were cutting into the palm of my hand. We should keep moving. This is the narrow passage that I remember crawling through. I remember thinking at the time that there's no way Nick could get through this. But it turns out that I'm wrong again. I used to think that Nick wasn't very athletic. But the only thing beneath that belly is strong, flexible muscle. This is our starting point. Remember to keep tracks of where you are. As we walk, I count the tunnels to my left. 2 are close together. The 3rd is farther away. The next tunnel, we turn and walk for a while. Past 2. That's what I remember. These are incredibly close, one on the left and one on the right. They could almost be considered parallel if they didn't stagger. Yo! What? Did you just use a contraction? I do not recall doing so. I'm rubbing off on him. Move. We only have to walk a few hundred feet before we stop again. Now this is the difficult part. These rooms are very similar and connect with one another. It's easy to get lost and wander in the same direction for far too long if you aren't careful. We go left. Then we go right. We skip a tunnel. Then we go right. Then we go left. Then we go left again. This tunnel curves very strangely. Our right will be very sudden as we turn the corner. And there it was. Our destination at last. All we had left was to go down this very narrow, very long tunnel. I can't tell if the wood is warped in such a way that makes the tunnel ceiling appear rounder than it should be, or if it was designed that way on purpose. For some reason, it gives me the feeling of looking down a rotting log, or a storm drain, except it's much bigger than either of those. We walk several hundred paces, then come to a dead end. Yow? There's nothing here. Patience. The tiger takes off his bag and puts his hand inside. You'll understand very soon. He's pulling something out. It's just a candle. He dips the wick in Nick's helmet and brings it up to the corner of the room. Except we can see now that there's no corner. There's a long, tall, zigzaggy crack that looks like it goes up at least 30 or 40 feet. It's in there. Would either of you like to go first, or shall I? You can go first. I can go second. Sam can cover the rear. Sam should feel safer that way. I'm very grateful that Nick is putting himself in the middle of us. He knows Jack's betrayal is still fresh. Stay close. The tiger disappears into the fissure. Then so does Nick. I have to watch my step walking over the layer of rubble on the ground. Wherever we are now feels very dark and very big. but ever so often I catch something glimmering. More quartz? Amazing, no? The clusters here are dense and tall. I bet somebody would pay handsomely for crystals as large. No doubt. Transport is the issue. But look. There is something much better. He points at the wall. I gasp. The rich color is unmistakable. Twists and turns of shiny gold vein as far as our light can reach. Are you seeing it, Nick? Is it really there? I have never seen so much wealth in one place. I gulp. It's like a pirate's bounty. This is the best thing that could have happened to any of us. We're never gonna have to work another day in our lives. We're gonna be rich, Nick. Not yet. We still have to extract and transport the gold without getting caught. And then find a way to store and spend it without raising suspicion. If we scope out the area, we can determine the safest location for a blast. You mean we can't just do it right here? Not without knowing what is above and below the vein in this chasm first. I would prefer that we are not buried with our treasure. That brings up a few questions I have. Sam? I think I know what they are. How is all of this gold still here? I know this path is confusing to navigate, but it's clear that there are developed shafts here. Somebody had to have seen this, right? My belief is that the foreman must know about it, but cannot extract it yet. There is no other reason to build shafts to be this confusing. Shafts are, ideally and efficiently, built over long distances to be parallel and perpendicular. That last thing you said can't be a real word. A grid shape, Sam. Nick raises his arms tall and straight, and then puts them in a cross formation. Good mining tunnels do not sprawl and wander. Strange shapes leave a lot of gaps in the soil, which means plenty of undiscovered deposits. So, you think they're being confusing on purpose? Either that, or they are avoiding something. Like what? Even if they know, I do not believe that they would tell us. Depending on what it is, the mine could be shut down for good. Do you want it to be shut down? The tiger looks troubled. A lot of good men will lose their livelihoods if it did. So, not really. Better to lose your livelihood than your life, I always say. The badger shrugs. There is always work to be done and people to pay for it. But the entire community would certainly collapse without the mines operational. That may not be the worst outcome. I hope you are joking, friend. No. I am just thinking about it. Perhaps this community has no right to exist if the mines are more dangerous than they seem. I will uproot again if I must. But I grow tired of it. There is a weird sound coming from the direction of the water. Like it's a flailing fish or something. Hey. I hear something. It's coming from deeper in the chasm. Hear what? Now it sounds very faint and soft. Like dragging. Sounds like cloth almost. If it's a member of management, we shouldn't be seen. It doesn't sound like a person. I follow the sounds that lead me to a cliff which has a sudden drop. As my eyes adjust better to the dark, I think I see a lot of movement in the mounds below. Formless shapes are shuffling against one another, almost like bugs to me. It's a bunch of mounds down there, and they're noisy. There must be a lot of bats living above then. A lot of nasty insects in the natural caves feed on the droppings and other such cave detritus. Even the unlucky bats that fall from their nests. The shapes below are definitely moving like bugs. Or crabs, maybe. I guess that shouldn't be too surprising since I hear a spring and running water nearby. Yao is poking and prodding at some places with his pick. I assume that he's testing for hard and soft spots in the soil. But then he crouches to pick something up and brings it to me. For your trouble. I hold it up to Nick's light. It's bright and yellow and heavy on the hand. But if I put enough pressure on it, it seems like it could bend. This is a gold nugget the size of my palm. You're shitting me. I can feel the weight of it in my pants when I put it in my pocket. It is the first piece of your first real haul. It's funny. I admit, I had my doubts that the gold was real. Though I don't think that they could blame me for that. But now that I know it is, I thought I'd feel guilty about stealing it now that we're going through with it. But I still don't. I have lost too many hours of my life and too many of my friends to hazards of this place. And those things are far more valuable than gold. I consider what we take a mere consolation. And that is exactly why I think we should leave this place once we have the gold. Maybe we can build a community where we will be bosses for a change. Or a community without bosses. Nikolai shrugs. I still think I would be a good boss. Just boss Sam around then. He clearly likes it. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Bad form, Yao. The tiger rolls his eyes. Fine then. Build your duck factory. Perhaps I will. Hello? All three of us flinch and snap our heads in the direction of what we heard. Did y'all hear that? Yao says nothing. Nick looks very confused. It came from the direction of the stream. Is somebody there? We all hear it again this time. It sounds like a child, maybe a little girl, but too young to tell. Somebody's there. Yao lifts a finger to my lips. I'm down here by the water. I can't get up. Will one of you help me? One of you three? Please? We stop and stare back into the dark. I don't think a single one of us is thinking about the gold right now. Whoever she is, she sounds hurt. Leave now. He takes a step near the river and starts walking. Get away, now. I grab Nick's wrist and the voice in my head shuts up. What are you doing, Sam? He pulls his arm away but stops trying when my grip gets tighter. Let go! There is a child over there who might be in danger. I shake my head at him, slowly. Please help me, won't you? A bad man brought me down here, and I've been stuck ever since. If you want gold, there's more here in the river. Nick stops trying to break away from me. Now, why do you think we're after gold? Are you one of the management's children? No. It's just easy to tell what makes you sad. You all want money. Well, mostly money, I think. But you'll never need money again if you help me. You won't even need food. Everybody needs to eat, little girl. Well, I don't. The maggots ate my stomach. They're eating my eyes now too, but I can still see and move. Nick takes a step back. I do not know what manner of performance this is, but we need to go. It's not so bad, really. I can't even feel them anymore. The beetles and the roaches that burrow under my skin got rid of all the pus. If you join me, you could understand. In fact, I think I might even be able to live forever. Well, maybe not live. But you get what I mean, maybe. Isn't that much better than gold? I think it will work if you all drown yourselves. But you have to do it by the river, or I might not be able to reach you. Although, if you're gonna do it, you have to do it quick. The thing that likes to feed on me will be back soon. But there isn't very much left of me. Won't you please help me? Her tone sounds whiny and petulant, like a normal child. Like she's begging a parent for candy or a toy. You just have to kill yourselves. I promise, it only hurts when you're dying. Now listen. Go now. Those are horrible, ugly things to say. Help! It's here again! Go now, go now, go now, go now! What is here again? We hear a massive splash as something crashes into the river. Then a messy gurgle. I'm suddenly very grateful that we don't see that far, because the sounds are horrible. How far away was the splash? It does not matter. It came from above. We have to assume that it can climb. We did not bring any weapons. We have to go. But where? Do you remember how to get to the smuggler's exit? Yeah, I think I do. I do too. It's easy if you retrace your steps. If something catches us, we should run in the different directions. Our chances of escaping are better that way. And I am not leaving Sam. Then I go alone. I know these mines better than the both of you, and I can lose it if it chases me. Remember, if you make a wrong turn, this part of the mine goes on forever. Now go! All of us take off out of the chasm. Nick, who is a much faster runner than I thought he'd be, looks behind us to make sure he can see me. His chest is heaving so hard that he might be hyperventilating. He screams when he looks behind me, and the light of his cap goes out. Nick, I can't see you! Follow my voice, Sam! My chest is beating like crazy. But I don't get very far before I run into him. We have to keep moving, Nick. My light's out! I know it is. I can't navigate without it. But I think I can. There's enough light out here that I can still make out the shapes of the walls and the openings of the entrances. You don't need the light. Just follow me. We have to be quick. Which way did I come from? Straight. Right. Left. There we go. I never felt so happy to see a long tunnel beneath the ground. We're clear of the maze. Nick is still breathing hard, but he doesn't sound like he's gasping anymore. I remember these rocks and these pathways from the night Jack hurt me. The exit is just a bit further once we take a left. We're gonna be okay. I see the light from the moon coming out from the ceiling and start to climb, holding Nick's hand. I grab Nick's arm, pulling him out of the gap, tears rolling down my cheeks as he struggles to fit between the narrow hole. I hear the back of his shirt start to rip and he cries out, but his body is starting to give. We tumble as he's freed. We're on our backs, laying next to each other. Aside from some scrapes and torn clothes, I can't believe we're fine. We're perfectly fine. At this point, I can't tell if we're both laughing or crying, but I say it again in my head. We're fine. We're fine. We're fine. We're fine. But when the exhilaration starts to wear off, I notice somebody's missing. There's not a trace of Yao at all in the dark. I try to shake Nick to let him know that some things might be wrong. I wouldn't be laughing if I was in your position. We both scrambled to get up and turn around in the direction of William's voice. He's just standing there, lighting his cigarette. I'm just glad he isn't pointing his gun at us. At least not yet. William. Sam. Listen. I feel my pulse throughout my whole body right now. There's a lot of things going on right now that you don't understand. You're right. There's a lot of things that I don't understand. He doesn't seem mad, like back when we were with James or when we were in my room. He just sounds calm. Calm and disappointed, and cold. But I do understand that you gave me an inconsistent story. And I do understand that you both returned to the scene of the crime. Sam practically quit his prior job to work in a place that I know he hates, just to avoid me. And folks' attitude towards one another became more paranoid and hostile each day that a murderer isn't named. I took a small step backwards. I thought you told me this case didn't have a murderer. And I no longer think that's the case. I know the difference between paranoia and guilt. He took a slow drag on his cigarette and blew. I know that everybody lies. But I just want to know why the both of you started lying to me. I honestly don't know what to say. We lied because the truth is unbelievable. Try me. We lied because what we are chasing and what you are chasing are not all related. There are more crimes and more atrocities taking place in this city than a known con artist meeting his end in a hazardous area. When Jack's body was found, it was like turning over a rock. All of the insects are writhing and twisting, and you are fixated on an ant. Most people don't see it that way. Then, what do they see? They see a home worth saving, and they want a savior. You were not a savior. Never said I was, friend. I'm just a servant. And if I find out either of you are hurting good people, I won't hesitate to put you down myself. Will, listen to me very carefully. We are not murderers. But isn't that a lie, Nick? He's just asking us not to lie. Nick looks at me like he's begging me to stop talking. Look, I don't think either one of you need my expertise to know that there's a perfect storm brewing. When blame is going to come pouring down the sky like molten rock, I don't want either of you under that. My gun has 6 bullets. That's not enough to stave off a lynch mob. If I must be honest, Sheriff, I think that if there is such a mob coming, it will come for your robber barons. Your rich who prey on the poor, like we are their meat. And you don't think that the poor will prey on the poor when the rich offer them money? Wake the hell up, Nick. We both know what greed does to people. And aren't you supposed to be stopping that? Servant? Bullets can kill me just as easy as anybody else, Nick. Why would you think that we want that to happen? We all shuffle awkwardly and heavy. I'm reminded of the time a few days ago where Nick and I were caught with our pants down. The three of us connected by who we are, what we are, and what we did together. Right now, it feels like we're all bound in the powerlessness of this all. I'm sorry that we lied, William. I am sorry that I lied too. But I have a right to lie to you about my private life. About anyone, about anything. Because you have a power that we do not. And you cannot always fight the power that you are bound to. But I believe that we can, in our own way. And if that means that I have to fight you, Will, then so be it. Nick. He was yelling now, chest heaving harder than I've ever seen before. So, are we under arrest or not? Will took another drag of his cigarette. No. No? I just needed to know where we stood. Laws are laws. Justice is justice. They ain't always the same thing. As far as I can tell, neither of you have broken any laws. As sheriff, I can only act within the capacity of the law. As your friend, and as your ally, I can pursue justice in the way that is true to me. So I'm going to leave you with a warning. If these men you work for catch you here when you shouldn't be, I think they will try to hurt you. Both of you. And if they can't use me to mete out their own justice, they will find their own. He shook his head. Don't do anything else to make yourselves look worse than you do. And don't put me in a position where I am forced to act against you. Nobody ever forced you to act. If you care about justice, or plain old survival, sure we are. He took a good look at the both of us. Survive, boys. Nothing else matters if you can't do that. The wind picked up, and we all had to cover our eyes. I'm heading back to the station. You really should ask me for help the next time you can't handle something. As he leaves us in the dark, I feel so much worse about everything I've done and every lie I've ever told. He doesn't know it, but I think I was just following William's advice this whole time. Survive. I want to live. I want to save my friends. I want to live a life worth living. Nick walks over and squeezes my shoulder. I know he feels conflicted too. But we jump apart when we hear rocks tumble and branches snap behind us. We scramble away from the noise. Do not worry, it is just me. Yao tosses the massive lead pipe he was carrying with both of his hands to the ground. I am glad that the three of you could talk out your differences. So was he gonna attack the sheriff if things went south? So that was actually no. Let's do the bad. It's the bad sort of part. Yeah. So this is what happens if you don't remember the exit. We have to be quick. Which way did I come from? Let's go left. I think we see something. It looks like a minecart, but there looks like something wet inside. I don't have time to look. I should turn back. I can't afford to mess up. I think we see a table. Shit, this is the wrong way again. You see a table with like a kid's toys and stuff like that, which is weird. But this is what happens when you run out of time. Shit, this is the wrong way again. Nick drops to the floor and starts wheezing. It sounds like he's gasping for breath. Get up, Nick. We have to get up. But there's something loud behind us. Too loud to be that far away. Help me! The end. Or is it? Because... Wait. I'm not dead? Was I just spaced out? So you get a second chance to figure out how to get out of there. But I'm not going to do that. So let's make sure that this is the one. Yeah. So yeah, that was the end of Nick's update. So, what did you guys think? We got to be a little bit closer to Yao. Well, I shouldn't say a little bit closer. I should say super close because they gave each other hand jobs. I don't know why it's always funny to me to say anything sexually related and stuff like this, or like to read it. I mean, it's funny. It's not how it's written or whatever. It's always funny to me. But yeah, got closer to Yao, got closer to Nick, and he even gave us a lunch pail that had Nick, Yao, and Sam on it, which was pretty cute. That would actually make some pretty nice the smoke room merch. You know, if any of the smoke room staff ever see this video and just like, what could we make as merch for the smoke room aside from the shirt? Well, how about a lunch pail that has three ducks on it, one's painted white and black, and one's painted with tiger stripes. Hmm, that would be kind of cute. I would probably use it. But anyways, maybe you can have like a little bit of fool's gold inside. Although I don't know how much that would actually cost to do. But I have fool's gold because of the place where I live, the Sonoran Desert, as I said in the previous video. To add to that, the area where I live, there's actually two quartz mines. One is a little further north, that's near the border with Arizona and California. And there's another one going up the mountains to San Diego because I live in the Imperial Valley. If you've never heard of it, then that's perfectly fine. But anyways, going up the mountains, there's a mine. I forgot what it's called, but it's near where the fossil canyon and the painted gorges. But there's a quartz mine there that's closed that people do go and visit though. So there's two quartz mines in this area, and sort of like an Echo, but in Echo there's only one quartz mine. But I don't know, maybe there's a monster down in one of those mines. I'm not gonna go check, but it would be kind of cool to visit because it could take the jeep and like go over there and look at the mine. But we do have to watch out because people do have a tendency to shoot over there. But anyway, back to the story. So yeah, what did you guys think? What did you guys think about the monster? Is it real or was it in Sam's head? Uh, if you look at the assets when you get your hands on this update, because I'm not going to do it on here, or should I? Nah, I'm going to let you guys do it. If you look at the assets, nah, I'm going to do it after all. If you look at the assets, which I'm going to superimpose right now, it's like a spider type monster with like what looks like undulating faces, spirits, or whatever it might be on the abdomen, and it looks to be made up of other people's limbs, and it has a whole bunch of eyes on it. So that's kind of gross and weird and cool at the same time. And yeah, it looks like it was inspired by. There's a game that I have in mind right now that has monsters of this type, and even like the style that it was made in. Whoever drew this, I forget what they're called, but whoever made it, the style is very similar to another game, and right now that game escapes my mind, but it's very familiar, and it's not Silent Hill, even though it looks a bit Silent Hillish, but still. Well, I guess that's it for this update then. And the what is it, Huxian or whatever it's called? If you can find a way to translate that for me and tell me what it says, I would greatly appreciate that. Because the Google Translate couldn't really seem to make heads or tails of it. It kind of like it couldn't really figure out what it said because it would constantly change the translation. So yeah, I guess that's it. So thank you all for watching / listening. If you would like to play the Smoke Room yourself, there will be a link down in the description. If you would like to support the Echo Project and get early access to all their ongoing projects, I would also put a link down in the description for that. If you would like to follow the Echo Project Twitter, I will put a link down for that, and there you can see like all the artwork and stuff like that they make for all the Echo Project games, which includes Ad Astra, Chemia, Interia, Echo, the smoke room, arches, and then eventually what is it called? Glory Hounds, which is like superhero based, and then eventually another story which is called Know Your Role, which I don't know that much about yet. But yeah, you can get like little pieces of information there and get updated when the updates go out. The Patreon and the public versions. But yeah, I guess that's it for now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye. Please tell me I was recording. I will be very upset if I'm not. Oh, thank God I am.